Hi, buenas noches. It's about 11 p.m. on Tuesday, February 13th. John Madden in Boca del Rio, Veracruz. And I know I'm talking funny. I just had the most bizarre bad dream I have ever had. Most bizarre because it happened while I was conscious. That's my black camper van over there. A couple weeks ago I spent something like 10 days broken down in this spot over here, right across from the Playa La Bamba sign here. And over the course of those 10 days I became progressively more horrified at the Mexican upper middle class, which is who lives in this town. I'm calling it a suburb. They don't use that term in Mexico. In the off season, when there's not the tourists here, the people who can afford the condos downtown there, that high rise. I've been 11 months now in Mexico and fallen hopelessly in love with how sweet the Mexican people are, the real Mexican people. But what I discovered by being in a place that was more affluent than any other place I had ever seen in Mexico was that the Mexican upper middle class are even more horrible, more disgustingly self-focused, commercialized, consumerized, out of touch with their fellow beings than the middle class and upper middle class in the U.S. It's more horrifying because it's more diametrically opposite to how the Mexican people naturally are. They have been more corrupted, more distorted, more poisoned by money. Now, when I finally got my car working, something like 10 days ago, through what I call unlicensed Mexican cowboy mechanic, Chucho, who was a real salt-of-the-earth guy, I went back to the marina area, which I love because it's more the regular people. And I spent 10 pretty great days there. But I got to hungering for the beaches, because there are gorgeous beaches here. There's gorgeous runners here. In the marina area, there are humble people, normal people walking around. But here it's people with their expensive Apple earpods on. I guess they're calling them AirPods there these days. I think they used to be earpods. Expensive bikes, expensive exercise clothes. And on the way up here, I had an experience that really solidified my horror at upper middle class Mexicans. I stopped by the aquarium and walked on the huge public beach. I think they call it Villa del Mar down there. I saw one sign that said that. And I loved that beach. It was awash in real people, so alive, so adoring the beach. This beach tends to be not very crowded. And you see a lot of wonderful things down here, but it's middle class people almost entirely. In this area, you don't see the beater cars you see in most of Mexico. The experience that most nailed down the peopleness of that beach was there were about 8 indigenous women in traditional indigenous long dresses with one of their granddaughters or nieces or something who had brought them to the beach, and they were squealing with delight. Oh, they loved that beach. They were the antithesis of the jaded middle class. So I got so happy on that beach. And then I went to dinner at a lovely restaurant down there and had a tremendous fish fillet. But at the table next to me, there was a woman who was attractive, 45 maybe, tight jeans as Mexican women wear their jeans. I found her attractive. She was great with her son and with her mother. But then two humble musicians came and played their guitars and sang their heart out next to my table. And I was in heaven listening to them. It was like, wow, this is the epitome of what I came here for. And I apologized that I only had 50 pesos to give them as a propinas, as a tip. But I thought it was strange that the woman at that table was not turning to enjoy this fabulous music. She just kept her back turned. And then they moved on to her table to offer to play for her, and she did not even really look at them. She just shrugged her shoulders and told them to go away. So callous. Such a cruel disregard of the beauty of their art and what they were humbly offering. I hated her. She stood for everything I hate about. It had taken me a long time until now to see that what happened to the American upper middle class happened to them too. So I got here late. It took a while to get the food there, and it was dark by the time I drove here, and there was a road closure. I had to go down a side road. There was bumper-to-bumper traffic. It was a rough drive, and I was exhausted by the time I got here, and I fell asleep early. Must have been like 8:30. And at 10:30, I woke up, got up out of the back of the van, sat in the middle seat there where I like to sit at night. I was in the middle of a cigarette when I saw a cop come up and bang on the window and said, "Come out." And there were two other cops behind him, one woman and one man. And I said, "Did I do something wrong?" He said, "Get out." I said, "Well, I have to put my shorts on and my shoes." So I fumbled around to do that. And by the time I got out on the sidewalk here, there's nobody there. Now, it's conceivable, I guess, that they got another call that was more important. But what I'm inclined to think is true is that although I was conscious, if I'm conscious now, and I'm hoping I am, I was conscious then, but my loathing of the Mexican middle class generated cops in my mind to come and harass me, and it seemed like they were going to arrest me for something. Now, that's not based on nothing. The other experience I had in that spot over there that I swear actually happened was a Mexican cop from from Boca del Rio here. I was broke. I was stone broke. And I was rolling cigarettes from leftover cigarette butts and notebook paper. And it was hot. I would have the doors open there. And this cop, nice guy, straight shooter, said to me, "Okay, I can smell the difference. You know that you're smoking tobacco and not marijuana. I now know and agree that you are smoking tobacco and not marijuana. But my customers here," and he said, rich people, this place is inhabited by rich people, "they think you're smoking marijuana. And if I get one more complaint from one of my customers that you are smoking marijuana in your car, even though I know you're not, I will have to take you into the station house to make them happy. Do you understand that? Do not let them see you with your home-rolled cigarettes because it shocks them." Now, my experience is that working-class Mexicans, lots of them use herb once in a while. And it's not a deal. it doesn't get enforced. But in Boca del Rio, even if it's not marijuana, if the rich people here call up their henchmen, the cops, whose job is to serve and protect them against the others who might try to disturb their lifestyle here, if they say it's marijuana, the cop says, I'm sorry, they said it's marijuana, and they're my boss. I have to do what they say. So I think probably that experience had a lot to do with why I generated this cockamamie thing in my head while I was conscious. Now I'm going to tell another story that's the closest thing I've had to that in my life. I had 30 years of being told by the psychiatric establishment that I was bipolar, even though I was a psychologist myself and had always been horrified of diagnoses. I thought it was a very bizarre thing to do to a person, to give them a label like that. But they convinced me I had bipolar disorder, and I spent 30 years hating myself. Buenas noches. Hating myself and taking horrid drugs that totally obliterated my capacity to be fully conscious. And the bottom point, not quite the most bottom point, because the absolute most bottom point happened 2 months later, when I finally snapped and woke up and have been fine for 4 years ever since. I was planning to commit suicide from the top of the 13th floor building, seniors building I was living in downtown Asheville. And I'm not a drinker. Over the course of that day, got progressively more drunk. And as I was asking my little chihuahua, should I do it now? Because my worst fear was that I would fall on somebody else and hurt somebody else. Should I do it now at 11 o'clock at night or in the morning? As I was asking myself that question, there was a knock on the door. And when I opened the door, there were 2 EMTs in their full EMT garb saying, Apartment 305, yeah. We've been sent to take you to the hospital. And my friend Tom earlier in the day had said, you've got to go to the hospital. You know and I know what bad shape you're in. You have to go to the hospital. And there's EMTs at the door, come to take me with their ambulance to the hospital. And I said, well, drunk? I said, how'd you get here? They said, well, diverticulitis. He referred to his clip chart. Diverticulitis, right? And I said, no, I don't have diverticulitis. He says, must be the wrong room number. And he starts down the hall. And I said, no. They've come for me. I have to go to the hospital so I don't commit suicide. So I followed him down the hall and said, wait a minute. Who called you? Maybe it is me you want. And he says, you got diverticulitis, ma'am? No. Well, it's not you. And he kept on going. Didn't even turn around. But that experience, I went back into my apartment and sat down and said, what are the odds? What are the odds that when Tom said you have to go to the hospital, and I wasn't going to go because I wanted to kill myself, that 2 EMTs would show up at my door right when I was about to decide when to do it, try to take me to the hospital, even though it was a mistake. So I just cried like a baby and unraveled my plan to actually do it that night and didn't, and went to the hospital myself the next day. And when I reviewed that experience later, I said, I bet that I don't think there are cameras in this hallway, but if there had been, they would show me talking to nobody. Those were angels. That wasn't real people. So this is my my shadow side, dark angels came to manifest for me that it's dangerous to me to hang out. I knew last night, I said, one night, you'll stay in the epicenter of the upper middle class one night, and then you'll move farther north. I understand there are beaches farther north where I actually could park my camper van on the beach. But I didn't get out of here fast enough. No, I guess so, because it made clear to me, if my unconscious, which isn't much populated anymore because I've pretty much emptied it out, still has such a dark wad of fear of the oppressiveness of the rich people over poor people, that I could generate a waking dream like that. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You got more healing to do, man. Okay. Buenas noches.